The light in the clinic waiting room was sterile, white, and indifferent. Everything about the place felt too polished, the glossy magazines untouched on the table, the scent of antiseptic thick in the air, and the receptionist's fake smile frozen like a mask. Naomi Ellis walked in, one hand resting protectively on her rounded belly. She was in her third trimester, glowing with the warmth of motherhood but visibly exhausted. Her curly hair was pulled back into a low bun, her lips slightly dry, and the soft cotton of her maternity dress clung to her knees in the early spring chill. She signed in, gave her name, and politely took a seat. Her breath was shallow. It had been a hard night. But today was meant to be routine, a checkup, nothing more. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Then 40. Other patients came and went. Naomi noticed the pattern, white mothers-to-be being called ahead of her. Her eyes narrowed. Still she waited. Finally, a nurse emerged, not with a clipboard, but with a security guard. Naomi's name was called. But not gently. "Ma'am, can you come with us?" She stood up slowly, cautious. "Is something wrong?" The nurse's face was blank. "We just need to ask you a few questions. Please bring your bag." They led her down a hall, away from the main area, into a side room, windowless, cold, almost like an interrogation cell. Naomi clutched her belly. "I don't understand. What is this about?" The nurse didn't answer. The guard stood by the door. After a few tense moments, Dr. Amanda Voss entered, holding a printed incident report. "You've been accused of tampering with one of the medication drawers," she said without a greeting. "There's a report that you were seen handling samples near the nurse's station." Naomi's breath caught. "A what?" "I asked where I could sit. That's all. We'll have to search your belongings. And we're placing you under temporary hold while we clarify the situation." Naomi stepped back, trembling. "I am pregnant. You cannot treat me like this. I want to call my husband." "No phone calls," Dr. Voss replied. She was made to hand over her phone, her jewelry. She stood barefoot on the cold tile floor, blinking back tears as she was searched. Her dignity evaporated in front of strangers who never once called her by her name. Minutes turned to hours. No one came. She sat alone, trying to slow her heart rate, afraid of what that stress might do to her unborn child. And then, a soft knock. The door opened. Marcus Ellis walked in. Tall, composed, his federal badge clipped neatly to his lapel. His jaw was tight, but his voice was calm. "Where is my wife?" The nurse hesitated. "We can't disclose. I have a federal right to immediate access. I need your security logs, surveillance footage, and I want to speak to your lead physician. Now." His presence shifted the atmosphere. Staff scrambled. Resistance melted under the weight of his authority. When he finally found Naomi, sitting alone and pale under the fluorescent light, he knelt before her. "Naomi. I'm here." She collapsed into his arms. He turned to the staff, voice like iron. "You're going to show me the footage now." They led him to the control room. He watched the tapes in silence. What he saw was not just proof of innocence. It was a visual record of profiling, humiliation, institutional neglect. And what it revealed was devastating. The evidence room. The double doors part with a pneumatic hiss. Marcus Ellis steps in. His tailored black overcoat drips melting snow onto the polished linoleum. He is calm, but the kind of calm that makes people stand straighter. His badge, Deputy Director, Civil Rights Division, U.S. Department of Justice, hangs visibly on his chest. A receptionist blinks, caught off guard. "I'm here to see Helen Maris." Immediately, Marcus says. No raised voice. No threat. Just certainty. It shakes the air. Moments later, Helen Maris arrives, flanked by a junior compliance officer who looks barely out of college. Helen's face is tense with polite panic. "Mr. Ellis, we..." Marcus holds up a hand. "Save it. I want full access to your surveillance room. And I want your chief of compliance and Dr. Amanda Voss present." Helen hesitates. "There are protocols." Marcus's jaw tightens. My wife was detained, humiliated, and placed under duress while heavily pregnant. That baby she's carrying? A federal court would consider it a life endangered by negligence. I don't need permission. I need a screen. The door to the evidence room creaks open. A small, windowless space lined with monitors. The air smells like burnt plastic and old coffee. A tired technician clicks through surveillance footage. Naomi Ellis appears on the screen. She enters the clinic, her coat open to reveal her prominent belly. She moves carefully, one hand bracing her back. She smiles faintly at the receptionist, then sits in the waiting area. She doesn't speak to anyone else. She doesn't move again for 5 minutes. Then, Caleb Jensen, a nurse, walks past. He does a double take. A beat. He leans into another staff member. Whispers. Dr. Amanda Voss is paged. 2 minutes later she arrives. They don't approach Naomi as caregivers. They don't ask a question. Instead, they stand in a semicircle like she's a threat. Naomi's lips move. She places a hand on her stomach. Voss's face remains blank. Then security appears. Naomi stands slowly, clearly distressed. She stumbles slightly. No assistance is offered. They guide her down the hall out of frame. Marcus stares at the screen. The room is silent except for the hum of the computers. No theft. No aggression. No confrontation. He turns to Helen. Your staff never even asked for her name. They assumed, then acted. And you call that medical care? Helen swallows hard. We didn't mean harm. You didn't mean to be seen. But now you are. Marcus pulls documents from his leather folder. One by one, he spreads them across the table. 2 filed complaints from black women, ignored. 1 patient, 7 months pregnant, who waited 4 hours without being seen and suffered a placental abruption. The second? Left bleeding in an exam room for 45 minutes before staff noticed she'd fainted. You erased their voices. You won't erase Naomi. Then, the smoking gun, an internal memo flagged 6 months ago. I increased risk profile among patients exhibiting noncompliance, particularly among underserved urban populations. Marcus reads it aloud. The words drop like lead. Helen glances at the compliance officer, whose face has gone pale. Marcus breathes through his nose carefully. I don't need a lawsuit to make you suffer. All I need is sunlight. And I will burn this place to the ground with it if you don't act. Dr. Amanda Voss enters. Still wearing her white coat. Her arms folded. I stand by my actions, she says. She refused to identify herself. We were alerted to suspicious behavior. Marcus lets the silence stretch. Then, you mean her race? Her existence? That was the behavior. He leans closer. His voice is ice. You endangered a mother and her unborn child because you didn't like the look of her. If anything had happened, if that child had been lost, you'd be under criminal investigation right now. Voss blinks but says nothing. Her fingers twitch. Marcus turns to Helen. You're suspending Dr. Voss. Effective immediately. And you're issuing a formal apology to my wife within 24 hours. Helen begins to respond, but Marcus interrupts. And that's the part I'm still willing to keep private. The rest, your internal bias, your pattern of racial neglect, and your use of vague policies to target black women, will be public. That night. Outside the clinic, the snowfall thickens. Marcus and Naomi sit in their car. Naomi is wrapped in a heavy shawl, her head resting against the window. She hasn't spoken in 20 minutes. Then softly. They treated me like I was invisible. Like I wasn't even human. Marcus looks over. She continues, but I'm not broken, Marcus. I'm furious. He reaches over and touches her wrist. Her pulse is steady. She turns to him, her eyes fierce. I want to speak. I want the world to hear what they did. What they always do. Marcus nods. Then we make it loud. Naomi exhales, her breath fogging the glass. She places a hand on her belly. For her, she says. Marcus follows her gaze. The snow falls heavier now. But inside that car, something has shifted. Resolve. Rising like heat from the cold. The microphone. The harsh glare of the spotlights pierces the dimness of the crowded conference hall. A restless murmur ripples through the audience, a mix of anticipation and curiosity. Journalists, activists, community members, and strangers united in solidarity fill every seat in the large municipal building at the heart of Chicago. Center stage stands a polished wooden podium, a lone microphone raised as if reaching for the sky. Behind it, a massive white banner reads in bold black letters, "Justice for Black Mothers, End Medical Racism Now." The door opens. Naomi Ellis steps in slowly, wrapped in a simple coat, her swollen belly a silent testament to her strength and the battle she carries. Every step she takes echoes like a promise. Her face shows the fatigue of recent days, but her eyes blaze with unyielding determination. She approaches the microphone. Silence falls instantly, almost sacred. Naomi inhales deeply, feeling the weight of all the black women who suffered in silence before her. She knows this is more than a testimony, it is a call to change an unjust reality, to shatter a deaf system. Her voice trembles at first, fragile, then grows stronger with each word. My name is Naomi Ellis. I am a woman. I am black. I am pregnant. And what I experienced, what we experience, is not a mistake. It is not an exception. It is the rule. A collective breath is held, faces tighten, some moist with tears. That day, in that clinic, I was seen not as a patient, not as a soon-to-be mother, but as a threat. I was treated like a thief, a criminal, without any evidence, without a single word of explanation. She clenches her fists, scanning the room with fierce eyes. They ignored my pain, my humanity. They ignored the life I carried. Naomi describes the chilling silence of the waiting room, the averted eyes, the whispered accusations that labeled her without naming her, the coldness of the hands that escorted her out. She recounts the fear flooding her, but also the fierce, necessary rage rising inside her. This is not just a personal story. It is the story of millions of black women across this country. Mothers, sisters, daughters forgotten by a medical system that sees them as lesser, invisible, undeserving of care. Her voice cracks, then rises stronger. But today, I stand before you to say this time is over. This fight is ours. For our lives. For our dignity. Thunderous applause breaks out. Naomi closes her eyes for a moment, letting the wave of emotion wash over her before continuing. My husband, Marcus, filed a complaint. The clinic was forced to admit wrongdoing. But justice isn't won only in offices and dark corridors. It is won in the truth we refuse to silence. She reveals the promised reforms but stresses that it's not enough. We must transform mindsets, practices, policies. We must demand respectful, equitable, humane care. We must make our voices heard in every hospital, every clinic, every health board. Naomi raises her hand as if to embrace the entire room. Today, I invite you to join this fight. To listen. To believe. To act. Because the lives of our mothers, our daughters, our communities depend on it. Because their breath is our breath. A vibrating silence follows, then a standing ovation, filled with tears and cries of hope. Naomi steps down from the stage, warmly embraced by Marcus. In this suspended moment, they know this is only the beginning. Their fight will stretch far beyond these walls. But also that their voice, finally freed, will be a flame in the darkness. Naomi's story is not just a personal battle, it is a mirror held up to a system that too often fails black women and marginalized communities. Her courage shines a light on the deep injustices woven into our institutions, especially in spaces where care and dignity should be guaranteed. But awareness alone is not enough. Change demands courage, commitment, and collective action. It requires us all to confront uncomfortable truths, to listen without prejudice, and to stand in solidarity with those whose voices have long been ignored. We cannot remain silent while discrimination threatens lives. We cannot wait for others to lead when justice is within our reach. Today, we must commit to raising our voices, whether as patients, healthcare providers, policymakers, or allies. We must push for reforms that ensure equitable treatment, transparent accountability, and unwavering respect for every human being's right to safe and compassionate care. This fight belongs to all of us. It begins with believing survivors, amplifying their stories, and demanding systemic change that leaves no one behind. Together, we can build a future where every mother, every family, every person is seen, heard, and valued. Because their breath is our breath and their fight is our fight. Join the movement. Speak up. Act now.